Hey guys, it's Devin, and I'm back with another book review of one of my favorite recent reads, which is The Storm Sister by Lucinda Riley. Now this book is a part of a 7-book series. There's only 6 books out now. I found it kind of by accident. This is the second installment of the Seven Sister series. So I want to share with you why I love this book so much and why I recommend it, and also a little bit about the series itself if you want to embark on the journey. So when I finished this book, I immediately told my girlfriends about it, really hoping that they could really dive into the series with me to have other people to enjoy this amazing book with. And yeah, so I want to share that with you guys. I finished it a bit ago, and I've been kind of brewing on it. I actually talked about this. I was just starting it about 200 pages in my Stuck in Bali to be read video, so I'll link that below with some of the other books that I've been trying to get through out here. So this book I found kind of randomly at a used bookstore. It really jumped out at me and I really resonated with it, and I recognized that it was actually it's the second installment, it's the second book in the Seven Sisters series. But you don't have to actually read them in order, technically, although, you know, it's probably recommended. I didn't have a choice because I found it at a used bookstore. And I was also, when I started it and really got into it, was like a bit sad because I was like, what are the chances of me finding another book in the series? Because I'm resistant to reading on Kindle and things. But I said in the video, well, you never know, magic happens in the used bookstore. And guess what, guys? Last time I walked in, guess what I found on the other side of the freaking store, in the wrong section? The 4th book. So I'm really excited about this, and that's why I want to give this review first before I jump into this one, because it is a commitment. Storm Sister is about 700 pages, and I'm not sure about this baby, but it's big. So I want to enjoy the richness of this one, and I want to talk about this one first. So I feel like I already have such a strong connection to the series, and after reading it, I was almost a little bit like confused about what other book to dive into afterwards, because it definitely left an impact on me, and I just felt so like heart connected to this book. I cried a few times. And it's such an adventure, and it's really good, guys. Anyway, so the premise of this Seven Sisters series is about 6 adopted sisters from all around the world, from this elusive billionaire named Paul Salt, who has this like castle called Atlantis in Geneva. Anyway, each one of the books starts out with each one of the sisters the moment that they hear that Paul Salt passes away and dies. So this book is with Allie, the main character of this one, and Allie is the second oldest in the 6 sisters. Even though it's a 7 sister series, they don't know where the 7th sister is. So when Paul Salt dies, part of his, I guess, legacy that he leaves each one of the girls are clues about where they came from. So it starts off on a journey with each one of the sisters, essentially discovering, reclaiming themselves, and kind of going back in time. Now, the book itself is actually split up into different timelines, which I liked. And what I said in my last video, my TBR, was that it did throw me at first, because it did. So it's a good thing to know if you get into this book, because it kind of actually stalled me for a minute from going back. I actually took a break and read another book, which, yeah, I'll leave that review in there, in the description as well. Anyway, but once I got back into this and I got back into the flow of this book, the whole book is like water. It has this like amazing pace. It's like these epic adventures that span across time, space, reality, and continents, which I loved. So Allie is about to get into a yacht race. She is a sailor, I guess that's what you call it. And she meets the love of her life. That's how it starts out. And this is when she finds out her father dies. So the first, you know, section of this book is her story, you know, her story and in this relationship. And then when she begins to have the clues about her background, which lead her to Norway eventually, it goes back in time about 130 years before and starts an entire new story about Anna, which is a singer in Norway. Now, at first, after getting attached and very much into Allie's story and her romance, it's quite epic, by the way, I was a little thrown when all of a sudden the book was like, okay, you know, and went back in time. But then, once I got back into it, and once I started reading about Anna's story, I absolutely fell in love with the other stories that are going on in this book. And I fell in love with Anna and the richness of going back in time in Norway and the music and what is going on at that time. I mean, this book is such an alchemy of historical fiction and real life adventure and like the becoming and the uncovering of these women that I was just so impressed with it overall that I'm so excited to, like, I'm already sold and invested in the series after reading the second book. Now that I have the fourth book, I know that like I'm, I guess, meant to read these books for some reason, because I actually literally felt guided to find this book, which was, yeah, we'll talk about that later. So this book is a multi-layered adventure book. Now, when I got it and I read like about it, I thought it was going to be a little bit more mystical than it was, but it is still mystical because there's a mystery around the connection of these adopted sisters and why this billionaire decided to, you know, adopt all of them and how he knew about these clues and what he's leading them to. So what I liked about it, I mean, each one is obviously a very different flavor and a very different perspective, because each one of the sisters has a really kind of strong personality, which I've enjoyed kind of looking into and enjoyed to prepare to read the other books in the series. I absolutely loved this one. I loved Allie, I loved Anna, I loved the other characters, I loved how it all came together. I was so touched. There's, you know, tragedy in this book, there's loss, there's just every human emotion, and what Lucinda Riley does really well is there's also this like really strong undercurrent of like love and healing, and also what I loved about this book are just the scenes. I mean, like, and in this she tells a little story, and then she also shows like how she traveled to these places. So a lot of these like landmarks, even people, are real, which is amazing. And you feel like you're there. Like I felt like I was on the yacht with Allie, you know, in the beginning. And then I feel like I was like in Norway, you know, in the early 1900s as these romances and things are going on at that time, which are all leading Allie to figure out about her existence, which was absolutely beautiful. And I mean, it was such an easy 5-star read for me, and I was so touched. I mean, I didn't cry, like I didn't crack into like crying a lot when I read this, but I was very like emotionally touched, where I was kind of like, you know, yeah, so I mean, and what I really loved about this book, and I don't know about the other books, was that this book was very much like the process around dreams and talent and like what we do for work, or like how we follow those dreams, or how we, you know, uncover and then cover, you know, there was just something so beautifully rich about this. And there's so many stories in this book. Like in 700 pages, there are so many characters. There are so many like connecting dots. There are so many like grand adventures. And at one point I actually started looking up some of the like natural landmarks and things she talked about in this book. And I was just like I could reread this whole book and probably have like a whole nother rich experience with just like how much detail and how much research went into this stuff, but also it was like so fluid. There was such a fluidity, and you know, even though it threw me in the beginning that it like jumped back in time, once I got into those characters, I was like so happy that this book was done like this. So I highly recommend this book if you're looking for a good series, that kind of thing. It's probably now like a series I'm really excited to dive into and like really sink my teeth into, and there's only 6 books out now, and then I guess the 7th book is coming out, but like what are the freaking chances of me finding the 4th one again? If you do start reading the series, then the first one is called The Seven Sisters, and then this one's the second one. I didn't feel like I really missed out on anything in this book by starting at the second one, because you do see the interaction between the different sisters. They are introduced, you get a taste, but you get it from Allie's perspective, and obviously in the other books it's going to be the different sisters, and each one of the sisters also has like something to them. So like for Allie, it is her not only her sailing and in the yacht races, but it's also her music and her musical talent, and her journey with that. So, and she's also the like strong one, or the leader of the pack. So I really liked like her directness and her leadership, and just the way that she kind of manages all this stuff that's going on in her life and her journey. Yeah, I highly recommend this book. I fell in love with it, and when I went back to the used bookstore one day after completing this, I kind of just went in because it's like my safe space. Like I just go into the used bookstore to kind of get my mind off things, or just, you know, there's always this movement of books, so sometimes I just go in out of curiosity to see what's in there, and I went in with like zero intention to buy anything. I just stopped in because I had to pick up something next to it. So anyway, I'm kind of standing there in the fiction novel section, and I felt weird, like I was like, why am I sitting here? And then I moved over to the other side of the store, which is the thriller and mystery section, and I was like, oh, like I felt this like draw in my heart, and I was like, okay, I feel better over here. I guess maybe I need to check out some books over here. And I'm sitting, and all of a sudden, like, I went from just like, oh, I'm here, to this book being in the wrong section of the bookstore, not even really in alphabetical order, below, like sitting down, like near the floor almost, and I randomly sat on a chair that was like really low to the ground. And when it jumped out at me, I was like, oh, and I grabbed it and was like, oh. And I was like, I literally said in that video, there's probably very small chances I will find another book in this series at a used bookstore, when that is my only like mean of book shopping here. But magic happens in Bali, and so this series helped reignite the magic, even though it's like dirty and shit, whatever, of Bali. And just like synchronicity and like timing with books and stuff like that. So anyway, I wanted to share with you guys this book. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend this book. There's just so much. There's so much. There's such a rich, multi-layered experience of these characters. There's a bit of magic. There's a lot of romance. There's a lot of just everything. There's travel. I mean, yeah. I really loved it. I was happy with the ending, and I'm happy that there's more books after reading this. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it, especially if you're a woman and you're kind of going on some kind of journey of self-discovery, or kind of curious about these kind of clues. You like historical fiction. I really love The Storm Sister, and I'm looking forward to jumping into The Pearl Sister. So I highly recommend it, and I'll link the books below. And I'll also link my TBR video if you want to see some of the other books that I've been picking into. I also have a handful of other reviews coming to share my reading experience, and I will definitely be back with another review of The Pearl Sister when I finish it. I hope you liked this. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like if you found this helpful in any way, or if you've read this book. I would love to hear how you felt about it as well, and all that good stuff. And, you know, all the ways to contact me is below. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this book review, and if you do decide to read this book, I hope that you love it and enjoy it as much as I did, because it was such a gift and it was such a treat, and I'm so excited I found this series. So I hope that if you haven't heard of it, that it also brings you some love and a really good adventure to get lost in. Yeah, because I really enjoyed getting lost in this book, and I'm excited to get lost in some of the other ones as well. So a lot of love, guys. Thanks for now.